Hello. Today I'm going to dive for you what I'm calling an easy sow bug. And of course I'm going to make it look harder to tie or harder to do than it really is. So since it's a sow bug and it's typically curved or has a hump on the back, we're going to use these Caddis hooks from Mustad. I'm going to use yarn to make this easy. You can use dubbing, but the yarn goes a little quicker. I have this sow bug or scud back already cut to width and came in a package. Got it for a couple of bucks. I'm going to make use of some of the lower fibers on this Coq de Leon hackles. I'm going to rib the whole thing with a silver wire. You could use any color you want. This may be more of a pattern fly. And I'm going to use a little dubbing because I'm going to use a dubbing loop and use the dubbing to hold the fibers and build a little thickness there. Change a little color, and we're going to hold it all together with that dark brown thread. I think that's 6/0 uni thread. So we got the hook and the vise. We started, left a little room to remind me not to crowd ahead on this one. Actually, I kind of built a thread head, so if you wanted to put a bead on the front of this, you could. You can see these Mustad hooks are offset. And I'll pinch the barb down later if right before I fish it. A lot of times I end up putting these in a fly box with foam, and I like having the barb there to hold it in the foam until I'm ready to use the fly. So until I get too old to remember to do that, I'm going to leave the barb on a lot of these, or throw that fly box away and get one that doesn't need a barb to keep my hooks in place. So we're going to put these materials in kind of in reverse order. So there's that. It's kind of 1/8 inch wide. It's a rubbery material. This stuff is kind of amber. I had a little longer piece I was working with. This is, I think, the fourth one I've tied of these. I'm trying to fill a box, and um, flies like this work pretty well on the lower Clearwater in spring creeks and tailwaters in Pennsylvania. So I cut a point on that scud back and tied it in, wrapped back to the about the middle of the bend. And now we'll get the yarn started. And if I guessed right, you wouldn't have to guess because you could trim it, but I left a little bit of yarn on top to fold back and help build the hump in the middle. So fold that back. I see that thread torque is kind of pushing it to the other side, so undo that and try it again. Okay, so there's a lot of our materials. Now I mentioned at the beginning we're going to use a thread loop. You could split thread if you want to, but the loop's a nice easy way. And what I'm getting ready to do, well, let's wrap the yarn. I'm going to half hitch this. And actually, for most of these, I use a double. It's rare when I stop at one. You just get in the habit. But I'm going to use the rotary feature, and I'm going to demonstrate why here. So let's get the yarn untangled, slip it out the other side, the back side, and so here we go. We're going hand over hand. We're wrapping our yarn. I thought since it was just yarn, this will go quick enough, and I wasn't actually going to use the rotary feature at one point. And it's about here I realized that no, I have it. It works, and I don't know how people tie without it, but here we go. So I can back over my wraps in the middle of the body, make it a little thicker. And again, I'm doing a Sow Bug or a Scud, or for all intents and purposes, it could be a shrimp. I don't think it's more of a representative fly than the exact match for any one of those. But while we're tying this off, the one thing that I'm incorporating in this is some tips off the lower um, fibers of that Coq de Leon. I've noticed that some folks use aftershaft or different materials to create a wispy set of legs under these bugs. And what I'm doing here is kind of a mini complex twist, And I'm going to use the Marabou type fibers from the bottom of that feather. And just the tips. And when they stick down his legs, um, I probably leave them a little longer than they should be, and they have a little movement. So, and I don't know, this is what goes on in my head, and then when you get on the stream and you catch a couple fish, you say, okay, I cracked the code, this is the way to go. So what I'm doing there is, there I'm just going to capture, I don't know, if this is about 3/4 of an inch worth of those tips. And I'm going to leave them about 1.5 times to 2 times the hook gap. So that's almost the length of the hook. Again, I don't think any of this is critical. And I'm going to trap those between the thread and twist it. So because I'm working between the camera and the vise, I just have my shepherd's crook in there, but um, I think there are better ways to twist up this dubbing. I have a couple of other devices that I prefer, but staying tight between the camera and the hook was the driving force there. So I'm going to put a little bit of that natural colored rabbit fur dubbing, maybe 1.5 inches worth. Worked out about right for this size 12. And now we'll slip in those fibers, kind of in the middle of that, maybe a little closer to the, I think once I clip them out, they're not quite in the middle of the fibers themselves. But so now I'm kind of twisting my hand, so this will take a second longer than it would have if you could just twist your whirl and let it go. Now you can see we get nice spiky complex twist yarn kind of thing here. And I'm going to rib this. So I just want to space this, make equal nice segments going up. Make sure I don't trap down any of those fibers. So we'll pinch and pull back, make sure the fibers are out of the way. And we'll get up near the front, and the front matters a little less. Like I said, I built up a nice thread head on these. So we'll do the drop over method of getting a wrap or two around that. In a perfect world, with no camera, I could have just held both ends of, well, held the bobbin and held the end of that loop and kind of switch hands. And sorry for my squirrely voice, it's bad enough on a good day, but I'm fighting something again. I don't know what kind of diseases they share in school and daycare, but they always end up here. So there we'll put a couple of whips on that, hang it over the bobbin cradle, and push down on the fibers, kind of part them in the middle. And you can see how wispy they are, and the water moves them around. I don't know, you don't normally think movement with scuds, but I think if it looks too solid and manufactured, I think that may turn some fish off. Like I said, I laid one of these under a tree in an area that didn't look real fishy, but had a little bit of a current flowing under it. And that trout almost leapt out of the water to get it. So it's kind of fun. That was, I think, the first fish I caught on this exact pattern. And it was on one of the cold water streams in Pennsylvania. So um, not a stocky, not something used to seeing pellets. So I've left that scud back a little bit towards my side. And I've seen other folks do this where if you part everything down there, you can use a little UV resin and make the back. To be honest, it almost takes longer, and I don't know, it doesn't necessarily make a better bug. So I'm going to wiggle the wire as I go through and kind of follow my ribbing. And you make sure you push fibers down and make sure that you keep the scud back mostly on top. a little toward me. Only pull tight when you're pulling down. Don't get too carried away. I don't want it too bumpy. If you want it smooth at this point, I suppose coating it with a little UV resin might be okay too. But we're not trapping too many legs, and this is going to hold that Sow Bug shell wrap, whatever we want to call that, in place. I bought that so long ago, I think I only paid $2 for it. It's probably $5 now. But there are literally dozens of materials you could use for this. I saw one made with, didn't Cheech do one with a plastic bag called a garbage scud or something like that? I may be ripping them off for this pattern here too, in a way. So we got our wire trap down, and now it's up to you. What do you want the head to look like? So I like a darker colored head on this, and I experiment a little bit. I used some black marker, some black, I think it was Sally Hansen's, to paint the top of the head. I think that's actually the look I like the best. In this one, I just hit it with a darker brown marker on top, and we'll glue it down. So pull in a direction that doesn't bump the camera, and we'll just slice off the extra, blocking your view with my finger as usual. So there's a little toothbrush. Got a long one in there. Broke it off with a thumbnail. Could have broke it off a little more too, but I'm afraid to get them too short. Then you don't get the benefit of the movement. And like I said, I don't think all these bugs move, but I don't think fish want to see little plastic pellets, especially the wild ones. So there we were with a dark brown marker. Hit it with a little lacquer or head cement, or in this case, Sally Hansen's. And that's the bug. So fiddle around, try and zoom in, give you a little better look. And I didn't weight this. I'll use it as either fly in my two fly rig. I hope this helps you out. If you want to learn more about me, look me up on Amazon. And until next time, be safe.